Who's ready for some common knowledge? I know I am. Let's get into our first card of the day. It is Run Ashore from Call Time, but also from Foundation's Jumpstart, where it got new art. I want to see that new art for a second. So like what is that? Like a harpy, right? It's kind of cool. All right, back to Call Time. Run Ashore is 4 double blue for an instant. You can choose one or both. The owner of target non-land permanent puts it on their choice of the top or bottom of their library, or you can return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Okay, so it's a boomerang on the second option, and then the first one, I don't know exactly what we call these. We have a number of cards that do something similar to this. They don't always put it on the top or bottom. Sometimes they put it second from the top. They can do lots of different things. But it's always the owner of the permanent gets to do their choice. So if they want the thing back, they can get it back pretty quickly. But if they decide they don't want it, they can throw it on the bottom of their library. 6 mana is a lot. 6 mana is asking a lot for this. It is pretty good tempo when you think about it, that you're bouncing something back to their hand if you're choosing both, and you should almost always be choosing both. But you're bouncing probably a pretty expensive thing back to their hand, or anything that's going to cost them mana. So they're going to be respending that same mana probably on the next turn to replay that or not replay that, which is a different opportunity lost for them, and that's okay. And then the second thing, you get to bounce a different non-land permanent, and maybe you never see it again because it goes on the bottom of the library. Sometimes it'll go to the top of their library, and they'll just that ruins a draw for them. They have to draw that card next, so that slows them down even further. And then they have the same problem as bouncing it back to their hand. Now that it's in their hand, they have to spend the mana to replay it if they want to keep that part of their board presence alive. Still, though, I think you'll generally find that this just feels too expensive. Unsummon only works on creatures, but Unsummon is a single blue mana to bounce something back to their hand. And this is, in some ways, kind of just bouncing two things back. If I'm a blue mage, I'm not keeping up this much mana for one spell. I'm keeping this much mana up for a counter spell, and a spell pierce, and I don't know, like an annul or something. So I don't love this. I mostly just because it's too expensive. I like the art though. I like the big wave. I like the boat, but that doesn't get you a whole lot of points here. We're gonna give this a 2. 2 seems a little steep, but I'll give it a 2. Molting Snakeskin is a single black mana for an enchantment aura. You enchant a creature with it, and enchanted creature gets +2/+0 and has pay 2 and a black to regenerate this creature. It's from Khans of Tarkir. That's pretty expensive to regenerate the creature. There's a lot of cheaper auras that can help you do that. The +2/+0 is okay. It's kind of an unholy strength, except you're not getting the toughness out of it. So it's a decent slate of abilities to add into a single aura. But I don't think either one of them are particularly all that useful. These are not the colors that you will find most Bogle's decks in, so this is not a really sought after aura for the kinds of decks that like playing auras in Pauper. Yeah, I think it's pretty weak overall. I will give it a 2.2, I guess. It's certainly better than the last one we saw, but not by a whole lot. Spined Thopter is 2 and a Phyrexian blue. We'll talk about that in a second. It's a 2/1 artifact creature, Phyrexian Thopter. It has flying. And Phyrexian mana, I don't know if we've done a Phyrexian mana card before on the channel, but Phyrexian mana can be paid either with the color that it is. So this is a blue card, so it's you could pay a blue mana, or you can pay 2 life instead. So this could be a 2 mana 2/1 with flying that you paid 2 life for when it comes into play. Phyrexian mana is pretty busted. There are a number of Phyrexian mana cards that see play in Pauper, just because it makes the cards insanely cheap. Generally, like 2 mana for a 2/1 flyer is pretty darn good in blue, especially. But you're getting that rate because you're paying the 2 life instead of paying 3 mana, which is what something like this might generally cost in blue. But at the end of the day, this is a French vanilla creature. A flying 2/1 for 2 mana is still not quite good enough to really show up in anything. It is nice though that you could put this in a green deck. You could put this in any color deck, but green does not have a lot of flyers. So here's a 2 mana flyer, and all it takes is just paying another 2 life to get it. Green sometimes would like that. This is probably pretty cool for limited, being able to play cards like this in basically any deck that you make, because you can just always pay the life, I guess, unless you only have 2 life. But it gives it a lot of flexibility, and that also allows for a lot of pretty good cards in Pauper that have these kinds of things. Like Gut Shot is probably one of the more famous ones. And if we ever get to Gut Shot, I'll tell you how great that card is. But until then, we'll just give this we had a 2, we had a 2.2. This is a 2/1. I'm kind of just feeling like giving it a 2.1, but it's not. This is like a 1.7. It's still a pretty weak card overall. Deepwood Ghoul, I do love this guy. He's not good, but I do love him. Look at that Mercadian math. I mean, it's the same art, but retro frame and everything. Anyway, Deepwood Ghoul is 2 and a black for a 2/1 zombie. You can pay 2 life and regenerate this creature. It's kind of similar to the aura that we saw, right? At least in terms of the stats it gives and the overall cost of how you pay for the regenerate. Yeah, Deepwood Ghoul's not very good. I mean, sure, it could block a giant creature without trample, but it could block a giant creature every turn, and instead of taking 6 or 8 damage, you're only taking 2 from the 2 life you pay to regenerate this thing. That's okay. For 3 mana though, that's a little expensive. I think you can get that kind of effect. Not exactly cheaper, because you wouldn't. I think there's somewhere you can pay 1 mana to just regenerate the creature. So being able to spend all of your mana and then still being able to pay the life to do this is cool. But I think the creature itself costing 3 is pricing this right out of playability for most everything. And honestly, it's not a very good card otherwise. Like, sure, it can block stuff, but you would like to do some offense in Pauper, right? So that makes it not quite up to standards. And we'll give this I'm going to give this the 2.1. No, I'm going to give this better than that. I'm going to give this a 2.3. Not that much better, I guess, but I will give it a little bit better than that. Let's move on to our next card. It's Stasis Cell, which is 4 and a blue for an enchantment aura. Enchants a creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step, and you can pay 3 and a blue to attach this aura to target creature. I think these are interesting. I kind of like the spells, the auras that even when you put it down on a creature, you have the option to do something with it. There are some that bounce back to your hand. There are some that can attach to a different target creature like this one can. There's some that can give you an extra effect, like exiling the creature and whatever. I think there's even one in the new Avatar set that we talked about when I did that buyer's guide, where it was like exile the creature and then you get to make a 1/1 ally or something like that. And those are kind of cool. This is a pretty overcosted effect, though, and I think it's really overcosted because they know you could do more with it. It's not it's not just like a pacifism that you have to set it and forget it. You can do something more with this, so they want you to pay a little bit more upfront for it. 5 is asking a lot, though, and this doesn't even tap the creature when it comes into play, so you have to find a tapped creature and put this on it, and that's or you don't, and the opponent just knows that they can't tap that creature if they want it to untap ever again. But I don't love it. I guess it's cool that you can attach this at instant speed once it's even on the table. So maybe you put it on one of your opponent's creatures because you have the mana open that turn. And then when they do attack with a creature, you can then instantly slide this over to that other creature and then it won't untap. I guess that gives it some kind of modality is not the right word, but it gives it some kind of extra power to it. But it's not very good. Not very good at all. I would like to give this a 1.5, I think. No, even less than that. It's like a 1.3. I was going to say I like the effect, but you look at those mana costs, and that just no thank you. Telethopter, our second Thopter of the day. That's kind of fun. Telethopter's 4 mana for an artifact creature. It's a Thopter. It's a 3/1, and you can tap an untapped creature you control to give this creature flying until end of turn. That's not very good. So it's like a Springleaf Drum, except it doesn't make mana. It allows this thing to fly. A Thopter that doesn't already fly on its own. I mean, 3/1, I can understand back in Tempest. Tempest is a pretty early set for Magic the Gathering. That a 3/1 flyer that any deck could play probably seems pretty solid. It seems like something lots of decks would want. So how do you keep this from being that playable? Well, one is you have to pay 4 mana to get it on the table in the first place. 2 is you have to have a second creature to give this thing flying. It's not even a case where you could block with this and then tap itself to give it flying, because if you're trying to block a flyer, you wouldn't be able to block it in the first place until this does have flying. And if you tap this to give it flying, then it's tapped and it can't block either. So you can't even really do shenanigans with this like you could with other creatures that want you to tap to do something with them. Or give them some kind of extra ability. So it doesn't even do that. This is really bad. I'm going to give this a 1.1. Yeah. It's fun to see a Tempest card, but woof. Inoc Wayfarer. I feel like we talk a lot about these guys. They've shown up a lot. I can't remember if we've gotten the Wayfarer exactly, but we've gotten cards like this for sure. I'm inclined to kind of just skip this one, but it's the mill 3 cards. Put a land from among them into your hand. If you don't, you put a 1/1 counter on this creature. He starts as a 1/1. He costs 2. This is a pretty normal Magic card we've seen a number of times before. In Pauper, we've seen better ones that can mill 4 cards and gain the land back. And for dredge decks or spy combo decks, you just use the ones that mill more cards instead of this. He's okay, but we'll skip him. We've basically done him. Choking Sands from Mirage over here is 3 mana, 1 black for a sorcery. Destroy target non-swamp land. If that land was non-basic, Choking Sands deals 2 damage to that land's controller. I don't know where we are in black land destruction in Pauper. I think you mostly find land destruction decks in Gruul, in like a red-green deck. But black, at least early in Magic's history, had more land destruction. In fact, it had, was it Sinkhole, I think? That's, let's make sure. Sinkhole, I know, is a black card. It costs 2 mana and it destroys a land. Yeah. Banned in Pauper. It was a common card. Banned in Pauper because that's too good. But it is, let's go back to, here we go, Choking Sands. So 3 mana to destroy a non-swamp. That obviously, weakens the ability a lot more from something like Sinkhole, which is why this is still legal in Pauper, but I don't know if you really play it. I think it's fun that it has that non-basic clause that it can do a little extra damage to punish an opponent even more. But I think land destruction that costs 3 is not quite good enough for Pauper these days, unless you have a deck that is really taking advantage of it, which again I think you're going to find is more of the Gruul decks than you're going to find anything with black. So Choking Sands, it's okay. I think the art's probably the best part of the card. It was in World Championship 1997 decks, so somebody used it to a decent degree. But we'll give this. It's not bad. I'm gonna give this a 4. I'm gonna give this a 4 in Pauper. Next up is Hired Blade. It's 2 and a black for a 3/2 human assassin with flash. That's all it does. Yeah, that's not very good. It's it's a decent rate, and flash is okay, but once it's on the table, it's just a vanilla 3/2 that you got to play at instant speed. I don't think that's really going to move the needle anywhere. I'm going to give that a 1.9. Haven't seen many good cards this recording so far. Let's talk about Carrion Beetles. It's a single black mana for a 1/1 insect. You can pay 2 and a black, tap it, and exile up to 3 target cards from a single graveyard. That is a little expensive for that effect, but having it be a repeatable effect that you can do at instant speed, this is a pretty cheap creature to get out on the table. And it was in World Champ decks. It was also in World Champ decks. And probably because this was a decent sideboard piece. In Pauper, this would probably also be somewhat of a sideboard piece, although there's plenty of black plus another color discard decks. And having a card like this to then exile those cards once they're in the graveyard, but also just having another creature that can block if you need to. I don't hate this guy. I think, or these guys. I guess it's, you look at the eye and you think, oh, that's what it is. But no, it's the beetles. It's all the little dudes around him. I kind of dig it. I'm going to give this a 4.2, I think. Kind of on the cusp of playability. Kind of on the cusp. What is this, our last card? This is supposed to be our last card. We'll see if we do a bonus card after this. But oh yeah, baby, Findhorn Brownie, 2 and a green for a 1/1 oof. Or in 6th edition, we just kept calling it a brownie. In Ice Age, we also call it a brownie, but now it's an oof. Anyway, you can then pay 2 and a green and tap it to untap target creature. That's not particularly good, but nobody cares. Look at this Richard Thomas art. Look at this guy. Ice Age, it looks even better. Man, what a card. Not a good card, but what a card. Man, this is in 6th edition. Should I put this in my white border cube? I think I should, just because he looks so great. I'm gonna mark that one down for me. Findhorn Brownie. And then I'm gonna put 6th next to it. Classic 6th edition. So classic. Brownie's pretty classic. He's not very good, though. He's pretty expensive to put down on the table. He's expensive to use his ability. He's too expensive all the way around. We'll give the Brownie... I'm going to give it some bonus points for being rad as hell, but the bonus points only give it 1.3. It's not very good. Let me bounce back here. Sure, we can do a bonus card. I'm feeling fun. Dross Prowler. Okay, this will be a quick one. Dross Prowler is 2 and a black for a 2/1 zombie with fear. Fear means that they cannot be blocked except by artifact creatures or black creatures. Wizards go on to genericize this a little bit more into an ability called Intimidate, which would just be this creature's color or artifact creatures could block it. But it started out with Fear, which made a little bit more sense as a black ability that, it can only be blocked by black things. But these are fun creatures. It's fun to be able to have unblockability more or less on some of these guys. I think you have enough artifact creatures and enough just artifacts in the format these days in Pauper that a guy like this probably doesn't really get to swing in unblocked as often as you'd want to make him playable. So he just ends up sitting on the sidelines doing nothing. But I do have fond memories of Mirrodin, and I know I played this guy in some kitchen table or school cafeteria decks, and definitely got in with some damage here. He probably also was not all that great in Mirrodin, knowing that how artifact heavy that set was as well. So I don't know, but I like him. Look at him. Look at his sweet back plates and all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna give him the 2.1. We'll give him his power and toughness, and we'll call it there. Thanks for joining me on this one, and we will see you next time.